market time. A Nigerian investor's multi-million-dollar legal battle with Zambia's central bank is back in the spotlight. Michael Prest, through his firm, Bank of Nevis International, known as BONI, bought a 24.8% stake in a Zambian bank, Investrust Bank, for $40 million back in 2021. But Zambia's central bank later refused to recognize the deal, saying that it lacked regulatory approval. And in 2024, it shut down and liquidated Investrust altogether, wiping out Prest's investment. Well, BONI took the Bank of Zambia and the Zambian government to court, seeking its money back as well as damages. Earlier this year, Zambia's High Court handed BONI a significant win, rejecting the central bank's attempts to block the case and clearing the way for a full judicial review of the liquidation. Now, for further details on this, we are now joined by Robert Amsterdam, who's an international lawyer and counsel for Michael J. Prest and the Bank of New Innovation, BONI. Robert Amsterdam, thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
So take us back to the beginning. What exactly happened when your client bought this stake in Investrust back in 2021?
Well, essentially, over a period of months, he accumulated shares in the bank. And what happened was quite simply, those shares, his holdings were never recognized. He actually was in a position where he was trying to make Investrust a central hub, a fintech hub for Zambia and the region. A region, remember, Zambia's connected on the border of 8 countries, a total regional population of 370 million. He wanted to build a hub that would be terrific for the future of Zambia and the region. And unfortunately, the authorities never recognized his shareholdings, never allowed him to consolidate his position, enter the board, negotiate properly for control and for a refinancing of the entire trust company. And in the end, what happened was they pulled the plug and let Investrust fall into administration, never properly recognizing his shareholding. It seems out of a Kafka novel what happened to his investment, and Michael is pursuing it not only for himself, but for all those investors who want Zambia to succeed, because this legal quagmire should never have happened. There should have been a very quick acceptance of his position so that he could move on to save Investrust. And he was denied that opportunity by the Zambian authorities. And it's actually shameful that he's been forced to hire terrific local counsel to take the government on, and that he hasn't been met with a reasonable negotiation position by the government. And it's a warning to all investors that if this kind of behavior is allowed to continue in Zambia, the hopes many of us have for Zambia under Hichilema won't be realized. It's as if the bureaucrats themselves are conspiring against HH, a man that I personally know and respect.
So my understanding is that he got this stake through Zambia's own regulated stock exchange. How then can the central bank say later that it can't be recognized if it's gone through the stock exchange, which is regulated?
Listen, it's beyond all of us. Firstly, there's as is common in some countries, there's a fit for purpose type of test, which is normally resolved within days or weeks. And the Zambians held this investigation for 3 years with no substantive feedback, with no interaction of any substance. It's very hard to explain. And as I said, it's a very significant loss for Zambia, because Investrust itself could have meant literally thousands of jobs. And why bureaucrats would engage in this kind of behavior. I mean, Michael was in the position of negotiating with ZCMIH, one of the major perhaps the major investor in Investrust, to try to restructure. That had gone well. The only barrier to success in the end was the government.
So, when Investrust was placed into liquidation in 2024, what happened to the money that your client had paid in? Was any of it returned?
Nothing has been returned. The numbers involved, I think, were a little lower than the 40 million, but nothing was returned. And in fact, he was given no voice. Uh, and this is the other aspect of it that's so shocking. Uh, he's denied the opportunity to build the trust, and then at the same time, it's liquidated without proper consultation. In a way, it's a textbook of expropriation and defeating investor expectations.
Do we know what the central bank's agenda or story is? I mean, the High Court has dismissed two attempts by the central bank to block your client's case. I'm curious as to what is the end game for the central bank?
Listen, I'll be very frank with you, and I'm only speculating. I have absolutely no proof yet. We hope to get this proof, but there to me seems only one explanation, which would be a possibly improper purpose, that the bank was looking after the interests of some other investors and some other financial institutions. Because I have no way of understanding why a regulator would literally damage the prospects for a fintech hub in the center of Africa.
So, what would you like the courts to do now? What's your client going for?
Look, to be quite frank, it shouldn't be the courts. I salute the courts for their courage in standing up to the behavior of this institution. But the government and the regulator should be sitting down with us to negotiate what should have happened years ago, a fair exit from Michael, and guarantees that this won't happen to another investor.
Okay, so what happens next? When might we see a judicial review itself heard, and what would a win for your client actually mean in practice?
Well, we're hoping this will be back in court in September, and a win would mean repayment. But since Michael's so active throughout Africa, and like myself has been involved in Zambia for many years, we'd like to see the structure reformed so this doesn't happen to another investor, and so that Hichilema's dream of Zambia as an investment magnet is realized.
Right, that's where we're going to have to leave it, Robert. Thank you so much indeed for giving us some insights on this very important case, as you say, for the view that investors might have on Zambia, that the right result comes through.
Well, privileged to speak to you. Thank you so much.
That was Robert Amsterdam, founder of Amsterdam and Partners, and also counsel to Michael Prest and BONI on the ongoing legal battle with the Bank of Zambia. And yeah, it's a very curious case. A Nigerian investor there putting money into this bank, $40 million for his stake, and then the central bank saying things weren't done properly. However, he bought his shares through the stock exchange, which is itself very regulated. So he says that there's something fishy going on, and he's busy investigating, trying to get to the bottom of that. So we'll see where this story takes us. But so far, his client has won twice in the Zambian High Court against the central bank. Fascinating story indeed.
A legacy isn't a statue or a name.